All right. First and foremost, I'm gonna say all praises be to Yahweh Bashem, Yahweh Shai Bashem Rakah Kodash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone, and shalom to the sincere elect teaching us truth and faith and sincerity. Quick topic I wanted to speak on is based around, of course, the main heated conversation that's been taking place, you know, over here in Europe and obviously in Babylon in the last couple of years, especially these last 2 years, 2 or 3 years or so, the whole migrant crisis and, these Edomites, especially these average everyday bonehead Edomites, feeling like, their countries have been taken over, and it's just been, there's just too much migrants, and get them out of our lands and get them out of our countries, get them out, close the borders, blah 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 this mindset. And obviously, Lord willing as well, me and the brother Razan Maf go and do another lesson on the same topic, but like a bit longer, with more other articles and stuff. And I mean, I've already got, but like I wanted to do a short one now because it's hot, like on my spirit. But just hearing these average, especially these average everyday boneheaded fucking Edomites complaining like about losing their lands and countries to people, and migrants are just here and taking their jobs and all manner of nonsense. And it's like, bro, you caused this shit. Esau historically has raped, robbed, and pillaged, right, many nations. You've destabilized their people's economy. You've robbed their resources. You've actually made cultural shifts, and you've ate and benefited from such. And now you're dealing with the side effects and consequences from raping and robbing and pillaging and stealing from different nations. And now you got the nerve to blame and have the main reason for your countries being the way they are now. You have the main reason of that happening being, oh yeah, because of these migrants, when you historically have raped and robbed these same lands. You've stolen land. You've set up corrupt rulers that have worked to what the interests for these corporations. And because you've destroyed lands and you've created such things in their lands, now, which has been happening for many years, people are fleeing their war-torn countries that you've caused in search of a better life. But anyway, the question I asked the chat is there a correlation between immigration and sorry, so let me read it again. Yeah, it says, is there a correlation between immigration and this being the side effects of colonialization and Western imperialism. It says, yes, there was a strong historical and structural correlation between modern immigration patterns and the legacy of colonization and Western imperialism. Here's how they connect step by step. It says colonization created, global economic and political imbalances. European empires, Britain, France, Spain, Portugal, Belgium, and the Netherlands, all Edomite, nations, extracted wealth, labor, and natural resources from Africa, Asia, and the Americas. Colonies were reorganized to serve European economies, producing raw materials while Europe industrialized and profited. You see? So if we take into account slavery itself, the East Indian Company, many events, right? You like completely restructured these countries and their wealth, right? That's what you did. It says this left former colonies with underdeveloped economies, artificial borders, right, and governance systems designed for control, not stability. Yeah, again, you bled these people dry. You actually bled these countries dry, right? You stole land and resources and minerals and and much more, gold and you know what I mean. You know what I mean. Remember, all these countries had their own languages, right? Now, English is basically the either the first language of many of these countries, or their second, right? Or their second at the very least, like that's the same thing that goes for French speaking countries, or Portuguese speaking countries, and Spanish speaking countries. These are all the side effects of your rulership. All right, but then now that things have turned bitter and sour, now it's like, these migrants. It's like, hold on, you just stolen from the earth all this time, and now you're dealing with the side effects of stealing from the earth. This is Habakkuk, right, 2 and 5. Yea, also because he transgresseth by wine, he is a proud man, neither keepeth at home. Yeah, and how does he transgress by wine? Because of his doctrines, his wickedness, right? His way of life that he spread throughout earth, causing other peoples to do more wickedness and sin, and I mean, this bugged out way of life in which you basically push forth into the earth, man. Neither keepeth at home, right? All you do is constantly invade nations. All you've done historically is invade nations, pillage lands, resources, right? who enlargeth his desire as hell, and is as death, and cannot be satisfied. Yeah, because just how, right? There is always gonna be a portion of land before a person to get buried, right? Basically, that's the spirit. You know what I mean, of Esau. He's got a bottomless gut that can never be filled. It don't matter. Like, he's got all the gold, he's got all the silver, all the minerals, all the lands, all the people under his influence, but he still wants more. And historically, that's exactly what you did. Like, if you take example, the British Empire, basically at a point in history, all right, through their conquest and conquering nations, basically a third of the earth was essentially under their vibration, man. Through them colonizing, conquering, raping, and robbing, and pillaging, right? And is his death and cannot be satisfied, but gathereth unto him all nations, and heapeth unto him all people. Yeah, and it's like, through your way of life, conquering nations, it's like now, all your major countries and cities have basically become a melting pot, man. Because these are all the side effects of your own actions. Shall not all these take a parable against him, and a taunting proverb against him, and say, woe to him that increaseth that which is woe to him that increaseth that which is not, is how long unto him that ladeth himself was thick clay. Yeah, because everything you have now, your economic system and everything is just based upon debt. But the point I wanted to focus on before that is, woe to him that increaseth that which is not is. So don't get fucking mad, bruv. Don't get mad at Esau. Which these elites obviously know what's really kind of happening out here, because the earth is given into his hand. But when you hear just these average Edomites, especially these boneheads that just don't know what's really happening out here, you just hear them just complaining. Oh, yeah. Oh, man. Things ain't the way it's supposed to be anymore. Just shut the fuck up, man. Like, people don't, which again, me and Lordwin and the brother going to do another longer lesson on this topic. People don't just leave because they're bored. People don't just leave their countries because of vibes. Yeah, I'm just bored, innit? You know what I mean? I just want to go and, just eat some new food. Beans on toast. Yeah, man. I just want to eat some beans on toast. So I'm leaving, my hometown and coming in. No, people leave because of their life is suffering. They're in search of a better life based upon the side effects of you destroying their nation, destroying their country. People don't just leave because I'm bored. You know what I mean? You see these like Jakes from like Central, America and South America and other parts, right? That go on long journeys through Mexico and through forests and shit, and walking, with the children. And obviously here, like in Europe, you obviously have circumstances that whereby circumstances, right? You basically have circumstances whereby people leave get into boats, right? Boats and shit, and then travel through Spain, France, and come to England and other parts, and Kids with their whole families and parents, go on little small boats and fall in the sea and drown in the sea. People don't do that because they just, you want to come around and just spend time partying. No, because their countries and their situation is messed up. And why is their situations messed up? Their systems are messed up because of Esau. That's why that shit's going on. Proverbs 29:2. When the righteous are in authority, the people rejoice. But when the wicked beareth rule, the people mourn. Alright? Because even us, the 12 tribes of Israel, right? When the Lord, Yahushai, Hamashiach, alright? When he eventually comes back and he establishes his kingdom upon the earth, yes, these nations going to serve a bit of slavery, right? And Esau, after 1,000 years, going to be exterminated, right? However, long time upon earth, the earth is going to be ruled in peace and righteousness, right? And you know what I mean? Peace and righteousness, man, right? The earth is gonna have, a righteous rulership, and these other nations gonna obviously have their own lands and stuff. Of course, they're gonna obviously have to go according to our ways, but it will be overall better than this wicked way of life. You see? You know what I mean? Of course, these other nations will obviously have to, pay their taxes, and trade, of course, and you know what I mean? But it's still gonna be better than this shit. You know what I mean? Esau just bleeds you dry to you have nothing, and people are just starving. People are barely finding, food on a day by day basis. There is enough food on this earth for everyone to fucking eat every day. But why don't people eat basically every day? Because of Esau's ass. Alright, like again, I'm gonna go more into this, more in depth. It says, number 2, right? Colonial languages and cultural ties shape migration routes, right? Satan, man, this is showing my name. Former colonies often share language, legal systems, and education structures with their colonizers. For example, many West Africans moved to France or the UK. Yeah, because if you was conquered by a French-speaking country, right? When now time comes to migrate in the search of a better life, you will go to a French-speaking country. Or if you're like me from Ghana, where we was conquered by the British, you got many Ghanaians in Britain because of that very fact. When the Indians, Pakistanis, and Caribbeans moved to the UK because, was conquered primarily by them. Many North Africans moved to France because they were conquered mainly by France. These shared systems make it easier to migrate and integrate to some degree in their formal imperial power. Effect: post-colonial migration often follows the path of the empire. It says Western intervention and globalization perpetuate dependency. Yeah, because you stole everything and basically have made it whereby these nations and peoples struggle to survive without you because of how your system's set up. You know what I mean? It's like, it ain't like you just left these people alone in their nations to just chill. After all of the rape and robbery and murder and stealing of wealth and resources, it ain't like you just, all right, cool, time's done now, just go do your thing. No, you took everything, and you still have your hand and claws in these countries. So even if you appear to have left these alone, and these nations appear to have their own kind of independence, they still depend on you because you've stolen so much. It says even after independence, Western nations and corporations often maintain economic dominance through trade, debt. You see that Ibatya, like you've laden himself with thick clay, and resource extraction, sometimes called neo-colonialism. Modern Western foreign policies, wars, regime change, and economic sanctions also contribute to instability and displacement in parts of Africa, the Middle East, and Latin America. Effect: migration today can be seen as a feedback loop of empire. People moving from destabilized or economically dependent regions to the nations that benefited from their exploitation. Right? Some argue that immigration is also a boomerang effect, where people from former colonies move into the metropole that once moved into their lands. Yeah, so it's essentially your sins are coming back upon your ass. Right? Western societies facing aging population and labor shortages often depend on migrants from the global south to sustain their economies, particularly in care, which, if you look in the hospital systems, right, and just care, is only sustained by migrants. If these same migrants that you complain about didn't work in these hospitals or care homes or or stuff, you wouldn't survive. You just wouldn't survive because you simply do not have the labor power and skill. Construction and service industries. Effect: the same structures that enrich the West now make it dependent on people from previously colonized regions. All right, it says cultural and social consequences. Immigration has transformed Western societies into multicultural and post-colonial spaces. This diversity often sparks integration and tension, especially when unresolved colonial narratives and racism persist in public discourse. So I asked chat, so could you say the West caused their own problems. Yes, that's a fair and widely supported argument. In many ways, the West did create the conditions that now contribute to its own modern challenges, including mass immigration, cultural tensions, and global inequality. Right? Let's unpack that. Yeah, I mean, and it's like, this part here, we're gonna save for the lesson, Lord willing, I'll do later with the brother. But it's like, you don't just hear these fucking Edomites complaining, this, that. It's like, hold on, like, hold the fuck on, right? You are continually, gathered for war and violence and stealing, and now you're experiencing the side effects. It's like, oh no, nah, man, it's your fault. Psalm 58:2. Let's start from 1 actually. Do ye indeed speak righteousness, O congregation? Do ye judge uprightly, O ye sons of men? Yea, in heart ye work wickedness. Ye weigh the violence of your hands in the earth. The wicked, the violence, right? The injustice, all the evil that happens in the earth is directed and dictated by you. Right? It says, the wicked are estranged from the womb. They go astray as soon as they be born, speaking lies. You know what I mean? Their poison is like the poison of a serpent. They are like the death adder would stoppeth the ear. Because, again, you actually can't even speak to these people, man. Because they're just so ingrained in their ways and ingrained in their wickedness that they just simply cannot even respond to, reason, man. But hey, man, this was just a quick point I wanted to speak on. Again, Lord willing, me and the brother, Lord willing, a bit later, go and do a longer lesson on this where we touch more on further points. But, I hope and pray that this was an edifying video. With that, we're going to say all praises be to how about Shemal Shah, about Shemal Kakodash, double honor to the apostles and elders of great millstone. Until next time, we're going to say Shalom.